Welcome to another episode of Was It Good? I am your host, Krishna, and I am filling in for Ravi, who unfortunately is a little bit under the weather. I am joined by Arjuna. We are self-producing today.
Arjuna.
He's an Arjuna. Anyway, we got an action-packed episode lined up for you today.
We do.
Yeah, Star Wars Celebration is right around the corner. We have a bunch of Star Wars news that just dropped. We have a bunch of other news around Marvel, Stranger Things, and then me and Arjuna also have a couple of pitches. We're going to pitch each other on various movies that are about to come out that we both were able to see beforehand. So that's pretty exciting. Arjuna, how's it going?
Oh, it's kind of like overcast, a little chilly here in sunny Los Angeles.
You want to hear something crazy? So it is, the third week in May. So we're about to hit June, in about a week and a half. I've just recently moved to Denver. It is snowing right now. It is snowing. We are expected to get 8 to 10 inches of snow over the next from today into tomorrow.
So Krishna, you lived in California for 7 years? 6 years. So I assume you got rid of most of your winter clothing over those 6 years. So are you now reacquiring new winter clothing?
So luckily I kept some, right? So obviously before LA, I was in New Hampshire, so I had a lot of winter stuff from there. So I kept some, but not a whole lot. So we'll see. Anyway, let's jump into this. So next week is a big week for us and for many Star Wars fans. We have Star Wars Celebration coming up, and we will actually be there doing this podcast on Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're in the area, come check us out. But Juno, right off the bat, how excited on a scale of 1 to 1,000,000 are you for this podcast?
Excitement's high. Nerves are also high. Definitely a little nervous, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. We've been doing this podcast for 4 years. This specific podcast, we've been podcasting together for over 6 years. And honestly, the podcast is just a continuation of our own brothership relationship of across many, many decades at this point. So, it's kind of old hat at this point. We all have our respective roles and the buttons that we push of each other. And I think if we just kind of replicate that and, ignore the noise, we'll be good. I used to do a lot of stage performances in middle and high school. And I'm definitely, I'm extroverted in a lot of ways, but I'm also I also get nervous in front of a lot of people. And so the way I would always combat that was just kind of focus in on what's in front of you and don't look out into everything that is in front of you, right? You're doing what is in front of you. You're talking to the people that are on stage with you, and that's the world that kind of exists. And you have to kind of create this barrier if nothing else is there. So I think as long as we do that, we'll be fine, and it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited. Celebration was really, really fun. The one that we went to 3 years ago in Chicago. Star Wars is kind of our most beloved shared experience, I would say. So it'll be nice to celebrate with you guys once again. Doing that, and then also just coming off of previewing really the most beloved one of the most beloved Star Wars characters kind of debuting on Disney Plus, I think is exciting for sure. Obviously The Mandalorian has been a huge success for Star Wars, but I think to now tap into Obi-Wan is just kind of the next step for Star Wars to keep up with Marvel in terms of just this internal content wars that Disney is having.
That's a perfect segue. I think it seems like the feeling is the biggest thing around Celebration in Star Wars right now is the Obi-Wan show or the Kenobi show that's about to drop. And obviously we'll be talking a lot more in depth when we're actually at Star Wars Celebration. But real quick, let's what's the top thing that you're looking forward to in that show? I mean, for me, it's got to be Obi-Wan versus Vader Part 2, the lightsaber duel.
So you're excited.
Curious to see how they do that. I am excited for that. Yeah, I know a lot of people aren't, or maybe they're on the fence, but just the excitement that both Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen are putting out about reprising their roles as older actors gives me hope that they're going to have fun with it. It's going to be fantastic. So I am excited.
So it's actually pronounced Ewan. I've been looking up some pronunciation guides
What?
just to make sure we, I've always heard Ewan and Ewan and Wooin.
All right, I thought it was Ewan.
It's Ewan.
Or Ewan.
So that's also something we should, get straight before our podcast next Thursday.
Yeah. What if he walks by the podcast stage and it's like, you motherfuckers?
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's definitely the most intriguing part of the show. I think that's going to make or break it, to be quite honest, in terms of how they do it, and how they really focus in on that fight, right? Because I think for most Star Wars fans, the understanding was the fight between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, they hadn't seen each other, they hadn't fought each other. Vader has the line that, I've grown more powerful since the last time that we fought, and Obi has the amazing line of, if you strike me down now, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. So I do imagine, and what's always interesting about prequels and in-between quels and stuff where the fate of all these characters, right? The history before and after. It's like this in-between time you don't know. You can help really recontextualize and elaborate on story that already exists. And Star Wars has a history of doing that really well, obviously. Like the prequel trilogy, for example, goes back in time, and the fate of a lot of these characters already, but it adds more contextualization. Clone Wars then even went back and did that with the prequel trilogy. Rebels did that with the original trilogy. You know what I'm saying? So I think this Obi-Wan show will continue to do that, and it's a real strength of Star Wars in general. So I'm just excited to kind of see how that all comes together, and just adding more flavor to kind of the core original movies, because that's what all the shows and all the supplementary seems derogatory of a term to say, but all the additional content does. Clone Wars makes the prequel trilogy exponentially better. Rebels makes the a prequel and the original trilogy exponentially better. Rogue One, right, makes A New Hope exponentially better, because you have, even if it's just the tiniest plot detail, you have all of this rich history that is there now, and new contextualization. So that's what I'm excited for most. It's like, how does it not necessarily change the canon, but enhance the canon and make those movies even more powerful, which is like I said, I think it's like a strength of Star Wars, where they can kind of take their pillars of movies and like, we can surround all this information around it, and you don't need any of it, by the way, right? You can still enjoy the movies as they are, but if you watch and consume all this other stuff, the movies are just that much more powerful.
Absolutely. And again, we're going to be getting way more into this next week at Star Wars Celebration. Ravi will be with us, so I'm sure he'll have thoughts. So you definitely don't want to miss that. But let's now jump even further into the future of Star Wars. So a lot of interesting tidbits kind of dropped. We got a few new shows, details on shows that we already knew that were coming. But let's start with this mystery show. Apparently that's coming from Jon Watts, who directed the new Spider-Man trilogy. What we know so far, it seems that it's going to be an 80s kind of a vibe in the realm of like Goonies. And it's going to be a coming of age story. So do we know anything more than that? Is it, what do we know so far? Is that all we know? That's all I've seen so far, personally.
Yeah, I think that's really all that's been said. It's a lot of this information comes from the Vanity Fair cover that was done recently on Star Wars, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. And
that's the thing with that crazy photo shoot, right? With
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Vanity Fair normally gets to kind of these big kind of photo shoots that they do for shows, and they get some like interview access, and some tidbits come out and whatnot. And they do that for like the big shows, right? They'll do the Game of Thrones spreads, and the these Obi-Wan spreads, the Marvel, the big like Avengers spreads and whatnot. I'm sure like Indiana Jones 5 will get the same treatment or something like that, but. I think from what I understand of this show, and I think we can look back to Watts' Spider-Man trilogy, it's really focusing in on that like, teen rom-com-y, buddy type of adventure, right? That's kind of the sensibilities he brought into Spider-Man, and I kind of expect him to do something similar to this. What's interesting about the timing of the news is Watts was for a long time connected as the director for the Marvel Fantastic Four movie, but it was only recently announced that he had stepped down. So
It's because they killed Mr. Fantastic already in Doctor Strange. So
a lot of negative reviews on John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, despite him being the fan casting. A lot of people didn't like his performance. So.
Oh wow, too wooden maybe. It did. I did find it real quick tangent. It did seem a little wooden, like a little bit monotone. I was like an interesting choice.
Right. As Elizabeth Olsen proved, like they were all not there on the same day. She's like, I've never met John Krasinski, and it's like, oh, you killed him.
Yeah, I get, and it must be a lot harder to act across nothing, right? Like if there's no Wanda there to act or no Stephen Strange to act across, maybe your performance is doomed to be wooden.
I mean, this is why Daniel Radcliffe really struggled in the early Harry Potter movies. Dobby was just an orange on a pencil. So it's tough. It's tough.
Oh,
it's tough when those types of things happen. But
real quick, I do have a real quick question on this. So Jon Watts obviously has been pulled from Fantastic Four. Now he's getting this Star Wars show. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but does this say something at large about the state of Marvel versus the state of Star Wars? Or is it just they thought this is the right guy for this project? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the two are linked as closely as like we want to think that they are. I bet, and we've heard this a lot with Marvel and Star Wars too, right? Creative differences.
Yeah.
Colin Chesnoff, the guy who did Jurassic World, was originally attached to Episode 9, right? And there was the original script that came out called like Duel of the Fates, which was a very different Star Wars movie that kind of like went into more of the mystical aspects of the Force, right? And that type of stuff happens. And like I bet with like Jon Watts, especially like Fantastic Four now coming back under the MCU umbrella and being integrated into this universe, he probably had his own ideas. There are different ideas for the movie, and it just doesn't work out. Even like Doctor Strange, which Sam Raimi took over, Scott Dickerson, the original director, left because like he wanted to do more of a horror movie, and they're like, no, we're gonna do, spoiler alert for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but they said we're gonna do an Illuminati movie. And I assume that's kind of where the disconnect happened. And maybe, something similar with Fantastic Four. Maybe Watts wanted to cast his own Fantastic Four, and they're like, no, Krasinski's coming in. And he's like, well, if I can't, he probably quoted Bill Parcells. He's like, I can't cook the meal if I can't, pick the ingredients or shop for the ingredients.
Wow.
So that's all pure speculation on my part, by the way. All probably completely wrong. But I think what it says about Star Wars, and I think Kathleen Kennedy, a Q&A with her the next day had come out with Vanity Fair, and she had some really illuminating quotes, but one thing she generally said was...
Yeah, she did.
She said, we're looking for someone with a big commitment to Star Wars. She said, the issue we have right now is, a lot of the directors and the creatives we want are so busy. They have this deal and that deal. She talked about Rian Johnson, for example, who they want to do a trilogy of movies with, and she's like, we're still doing that. It's just, it's going to take a long time because... Star Wars isn't like you can come in for a year and then go away. It's like it's a 3, 4, 5 year commitment. That's kind of the way they look at their production, right? Versus Marvel, I think, is such a machine. You can come in and you can come out because you have like a Kevin Feige and the producers at hand who can shepherd the story. And I think what Star Wars is looking for is they're just looking to kind of tell cool and interesting stories. It's not like they don't have to follow something necessarily. They're not like building up to a phase. They're just trying to tell cool stories within this universe at this point. And I think that's what they want. And Watts, maybe either he had this idea or if his idea was pitched and they thought he was the right person. But I do like that Star Wars is intentionally trying to do new stories. You have the Acolyte, which is going to be like 100 years before. So it's just like exploring new times and also different genres is cool within this universe. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I it is cool. It's definitely cool. And obviously, when you have a galaxy full of planets and people and events, you could tell any story you want. And it's sort of, and we've said that now about superhero movies, right? Like,
right,
the superhero is more of this overview that you can tell any story with. So you brought up Acolyte. Acolyte is set 100 years before Phantom Menace, and it's being billed as a mystery thriller, which is really cool. That's an interesting idea. My only, and it's not even like a huge issue. It's just I hope we don't get, and I don't think we will, but like these generic like buddy cop stories, or a generic mystery, or a generic coming of age story, and it's just you slap a Star Wars sticker on it and here we go. I don't think we will. The people they've got running the thing and the directors they have, they seem like really passionate and like really creative. So I'm sure, like Mandalorian, I think is a wonderful example. Like, that is billed as like a Western, right? A Western fantasy, and it's still very Star Wars. So I guess my hope is that we don't lose the Star Wars as we start to delve into these really cool stories. But I am definitely excited for Acolyte. I mean, it's as I said, it's set 100 years before the Phantom Menace, during sort of the golden age of the Jedi, which is a really intriguing period, I should say. And it's an area of Star Wars that hasn't been mined too much. Obviously, we've gotten some of the books that have come out around that era. So this is like the richest, and I think Ravi said it multiple times, that this is an era of Star Wars that he says he hopes that Disney focuses more on, and now we're starting to get into that. We grew up with the video game KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. Again, set in a very similar era, not canon anymore, but
right, that was like 10,000 years.
Yeah, right. That's 10,000 years, and so I'm curious to see how they meld some of this as well, like Star Wars Legends with the new stuff that Disney is doing. But Acolyte should be really interesting. Any other details on that you picked up on other than
I think what I really like, and some of the things they talked about was like, if you think about the Jedi Order in the prequel trilogy, right? This is like a very powerful organization that become generals and then are like pretty easily overthrown, right? They have like the Emperor sitting right in the city that they inhabit in Coruscant, right? So I think all of that is super interesting and will be kind of cool to track and see. Like Yoda. It's funny, like when you look at the discourse of Yoda, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, he's such a good green guy," but it's like Yoda's kind of responsible for a lot of this shit that goes down. He's the Grand Master. He is the Master Jedi, and all of this goes down on his watch. Like he lets Palpatine fester, and like there has to be more to that story, right? Like that doesn't just happen. Right, like what led to the Jedi Order falling so far to be like, we're going to be generals in war, right? And so I think maybe part of this show will kind of examine that. And I think the thing I've really liked most about Star Wars in recent years is this exploration that like it's not just Jedi good, Sith bad, right? There's more of this gray, and like the Jedi Order like really, really fucked up. Like they like, and a lot of that happens pre-episode 1. Like the fact that it's in the state that it is why everything happens the way it happens. If the Jedi were to a T what they said they were going to be, this wouldn't have happened. So it's like, how did that happen? And how did that all come to be?
Let me ask you a question. Because you're absolutely right? And I love that you brought all of that up because I really hope it's something that they explore. And it sounds like from the article that I read, the Deadline article, that's exactly what they're going to be doing, exploring how the groundwork was laid in the previous 100 years. Let me ask you this. Star Wars is being run by some pretty smart people. And, it seemed to me that, they want to connect things, right? And if you look to my left here, I've got this, he was named Baby Yoda, and now we know his name is Grogu.
Baby Yoda.
And we're still a little in the dark on his origins.
Yeah.
Now, when we first, I think as soon as we saw him in episode 1 of Mandalorian, the internet exploded with theories on his lineage and where he came from. And a lot of people brought up this idea that Yoda, this Grandmaster, this Master Jedi, as you put it, Grandmaster Jedi. And then also, if you think back to episode 1, we saw a couple shots of this other Jedi Master on the council named Yaddle. You know, so I'm going to throw out a bold prediction. This is 100 years before the Phantom Menace. I think part of Acolyte is going to explore a forbidden romance between Yoda and Yaddle that would lead to 50 years down the road, since Grogu is 50 years old at the time of Mandalorian, so
like 60,
50 or
50,
60,
yeah.
50, 60 years leads to maybe a forbidden tryst. And as we know, in the Jedi Order, romantic attachment is forbidden. So who's to say that perhaps love blinded Yoda?
It's fun.
And maybe laid the groundwork.
It's a fun theory, but one thing you just said that makes me hope that they don't do that is it just sounds too much like Marvel. Well, I want Star Wars to not have to feel like to force everything needs to connect to everything, right? Because that's become the expectation for Marvel, and then when it doesn't happen, you just can't enjoy the product for what it is. I think part of the reason I really like The Mandalorian is because, yeah, there are some connections here and there, but it's still its own thing. And I think that's the power of Star Wars. There are these connections, and you can enjoy some of that stuff, but it's also Clone Wars is really enjoyable because it does deepen that stuff, but it's also a really good show. It's one of the greatest arcs in that is the Mortis arc, right? When they go to the planet, and that has nothing to do with anything you really ever see again. It's never referenced before or after, but it's just a really good piece of storytelling. Yeah, conveniently, right?
The convenient device of
you all forgot
amnesia. Yeah, you all forgot, which is great, and it is wonderful.
Perfect. No, but that's what I just hope for good stories. The reason I love KOTOR was because it was just a good story, and it was just a fun game, right? You got to be a Jedi or a Sith and build your own star team and roam the galaxy and do whatever the hell you wanted.
Cause mayhem.
And that's the beauty of Star Wars. So I think that would be cool though. It would be cool to see a younger Yoda who makes some mistakes, especially because within the movies he's obviously presented as this infallible creature who was just pure good and everything. But there's a lot of evidence around him that his decision making kind of sucks. It's not great.
And a potential love child running around too. I'm gonna harp on that for a while. And also, we all know Darth Jar Jar is the one who probably influenced him to fall to the darks. What
if Acolyte has Jar Jar Binks Gungans? We don't know the aging mechanisms of Gungans.
That's true.
I mean, probably sure there's something there, but maybe if Gungans have hundreds of years of lifespan.
And we know from the book, I believe, the novel Aftermath, that Jar Jar is alive during at least, I think, The Force Awakens, because he's on Naboo as a clown, as a street performer, a loser, basically, an outcast. So that would point to a picture that they live, a decent amount of time. So who knows? Right. Maybe.
And time travel is canon in Star Wars.
No. It's more is it actual time travel, or is it more consciousness?
No, because Ahsoka jumps 2 years. She literally
Yeah, I gotta rewatch. I gotta brush up on that whole thing, because I remember being very angry when it was introduced, because I was I really hope. I think it was weeks before, maybe months before. I was as long as Star Wars doesn't touch time travel, we're good. And then they did, and now it's now they can change everything. Speaking of Ahsoka, what news dropped? I actually didn't see this. What news dropped around Ahsoka, if there was any?
No news really dropped around Ahsoka. The only thing that just recently was said about Ahsoka was they just started filming. Production, filming is well underway. And that show is going to come in 2023, and people are just excited for it. What was officially confirmed was Ewan McGregor's girlfriend / wife. has been cast in the show. A lot of people think she'll be playing. I forget what character people think she's going to be playing. But a lot of people are excited for that show. There is an actress obviously that's been cast as Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian, who teams up with Ahsoka obviously at the end of Rebels. People are kind of waiting for Ezra and General Thrawn's castings. Like, we know Thrawn's coming. He's been name dropped in The Mandalorian. Like, kind of would be an upset if there was an Ahsoka show that wasn't about Thrawn, especially like that's the tease you left at the end of Mandalorian. You think there's something there, obviously.
And also, if you're casting Ezra, you better cast Thrawn, because the last time we saw Ezra, he was blasting off into the outside of the galaxy with
Blast
Thrawn.
off.
So yeah, it would be weird if they didn't cast him.
And I will say
unless
this.
like
2019 Chicago Comic-Con, we saw a large what's the name?
Like a mural?
Picture. A mural, right. Of all these Star Wars characters, and we saw a rendering of Thrawn that looked just like Pierce Brosnan.
It was Pierce Brosnan with blue skin and red eyes, aka Pierce Brosnan is Thrawn.
I feel like he's too old to play Thrawn though. At this point,
well, with the blue CGI or prosthetic makeup, you easily DH him 50 years.
Yeah, but Thrawn's also supposed to be a master martial artist.
CGI. you can fix anything with CGI.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. My mistake.
Yeah. Real quick, one other show we should probably touch on real quick is the Andor show.
That's supposed to be coming in a few months. Yeah.
Yeah, a few months. So it's supposed to be supposedly it's a story of a migrant and how that changes a man who makes the ultimate sacrifice. Unfortunately, we know his ending. So the mystery of where he ends up, there is no mystery. We know how it ends, and I know that irks Ravi a little bit. But it's a story of a migrant, and perhaps that will play into, what allows him to make that ultimate sacrifice. But I think even, also maybe just as interesting is in the show, there's going to be a parallel story of Mon Mothma, who is sort of this like mysterious, graceful figure that we've seen, that we saw in the original.
Leader of the rebellion,
Leader of the rebellion. We saw in Return of the Jedi, and then most recently in
Rogue One.
Rogue One, thank you. Along with what's his face, Jimmy Schmitz, Bail Organa.
Bail.
So yeah, so that's interesting. I'm curious to see how those two things align, and I guess it makes sense, right? Like Mon Mothma was in Rogue One, which is also where we saw Andor the first time. So that probably maybe she's what gets him to join the rebellion. And
I'm sure it's going to explore a lot of that. And what's interesting about Star Wars is, besides the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, everything is a prequel.
Yeah.
Like
you're right.
They haven't broken new story in a lot. Like between the original and sequel trilogies, when they actually broke new story that was going into a quote unquote unknown future. You know what I'm saying? Like everything else.
Wow.
Like the basis of Star Wars is to fill in the gaps of stuff, right? Like Rogue One was to fill in gaps. Cassian is now to fill in gaps of his character, or Andor is to fill in Cassian gaps of Rogue One. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is a prequel of some type. Like that has been, like we talked about earlier, like just part of the DNA and the strength of Star Wars. It's like, here's the stuff and now here's why it's important, versus like Marvel. Like take Marvel for example. That's like here's all the little stuff and then we're going to get to the big thing. We build up to the Avengers, and Star Wars is like, here's the Avengers and now here's why there was the Avengers.
Yeah, that's really interesting. My mind blew a little bit that almost everything in Star Wars is a prequel of some kind.
Yeah.
it's kind of hilarious. Speaking of prequels, real quick, Bad Batch Season 2, there's going to be a time jump? Do we know how much of a time jump?
At least a few years.
Holy shit.
There's an article that recently came out that said that someone had, there had been the early renderings, and there's definitely age jumps of the characters, specifically
Omega,
everyone's favorite character, Omega. So
Omega.
That will be interesting to see, especially because like where we left off in the canon of Bad Batch, it had only been a few months after the fall of Order 66 and the fall of the Jedi. How far in the future we're going to go, I have no idea, but it would be kind of cool, like, if every season it's like a bit of a time jump, right? Like, we're a few years ahead and then a few years ahead, and maybe we catch up to, like, The Mandalorian and some other stuff, and that's just connecting the dots of, like, this is a Filoni show, The Mandalorian and, like, that Mando-verse of, like, Ahsoka and stuff are also Filoni shows, so maybe there's the connective tissue within those stories to kind of connect those and see how they connect and where they go.
Yeah, I'm so curious because I really thought Bad Batch season 2 was going to leave up like maybe a month or two, a couple months maybe after the end of the last, of the first season. I will say though, this idea of a few year long time jump makes me more excited for the Bad Batch season 2 because it means that we're going to get slightly different characters. We're going to get the same characters, but they're going to be different, as you said. They're going to be slightly aged up. And that, to me, complicates things, right? They're going to have been doing things. Crosshair, last we left him, who's, I think, the most interesting part of Bad Batch. A very uneasy sort of, going in the opposite direction. They didn't kill each other, but they weren't allies. So allowing a few years of that festering, of that uneasiness.
You assume he's not going to chase them either anymore. Like if he lets them go, it's like he's not actively trying to kill them.
Yeah, so that's why I was very curious. I'm so curious to see that, and then also, we finished with the Book of Boba season 1. Maybe the only season, I don't know. The Book of Boba, and so perhaps a time jump allows these characters to run into simultaneously an older Boba from what we've seen in the animated stuff, and then episode 2, but a younger Boba from Book of Boba. So very curious. It's a good decision, I think.
As we do know, as we sort of learned in the flashbacks in Book of Boba, that it was only a few days after Return of Jedi that he emerged from the pit, and then he was just stuck on Tatooine training with the Sand People. So who knows who came to Tatooine at that time? Yeah,
very interesting creative decisions, and that's all we'll say about that.
Yes. Go listen to our Book of Boba pods for more info.
There you go. In fact, just listen to the last one, and you'll get pretty much the whole thing. Let's transition from Star Wars for a second here to a section of the podcast we haven't done in a while. We call it the 60-second pitch. And we're not bringing you one 60-second pitch. We're bringing you 60-second pitches. Say that 5 times fast. And we've got a real treat. These are 2 movies that are upcoming. They're going to be released in the next week or 2. I know
they're both being released on the same day, May 27th.
27th.
Yeah.
Damn. 1 week from today, you'll be able to watch both of these movies. And the goal here is I'm going to pitch you Top Gun Maverick, and Arjuna will be pitching Bob's Burgers, the movies. And we should just do a direct, head-to-head. Based on these 2 pitches, you'll have to decide which one to spend your time and money to go see.
All right, Krishna, you can start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Top Gun Maverick brings back aging icon superstar Tom Cruise. Do you like intensity? Then you're going to love Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick is a perfect blend of the intensity of a war movie like Dunkirk with the fun and action of all of those 80s movies that you love, including Top Gun, Commando, all of that good stuff. When I say intense, I mean intense. You're going to be on the edge of your seat. The lead up to the climax is one of the best lead ups to an action movie I have ever seen. I'm not ready to say that this is the most entertaining movie of all time, but I just might be. When I see it for the second time, hopefully next weekend in IMAX, and if it does what I think it will do, which is keep me on the edge of my seat with my blood
5 seconds.
pressure up and my heart rate up, I will
3,
declare it the most entertaining
2,
movie of all
1.
time. I had to go big.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense.
So yeah, honestly, I can't wait for you guys to see it. As everyone knows who knows me, I'm prone to hyperbole. I'm prone to very
Is this
much-
better than Triple Frontier?
Yes.
The greatest
yes,
action
it's better.
movie you've ever seen.
No, I putting words in my mouth. I have never said that ever.
Pull the
But
clip.
Top Gun Maverick, intense and very entertaining. Okay, Arjuna, I will give you your 60 seconds here. We will start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Do you like movies under 2 hours? Do you like movies where you don't have to see 30 other movies to understand it? Then Bob's Burgers, the movie, is for you. It's fun, it's easy to follow, and it's for the whole family. You got jokes for the kids, jokes for the parents, even jokes for the grandparents. As someone who has never really watched Bob's Burgers before, I went into this movie knowing almost zero about the family, the cast, the characters, the setting at all, and I still had a really good time. It was a good mix of comedy and fun and mystery. And also, they did a great job of not spoiling any of the movie in the trailer, so you really have no idea what to expect in this movie. It could have honestly been about anything.
10 seconds.
And it was, and I really enjoyed it. So if you've just got a free afternoon and want to just have an easy
3,
movie, go watch
2,
Bob's Burgers
1,
movie
0.
at night.
Oh, you went over. You're disqualified. I win. No, just kidding. Wow, great pitch. Damn, that's very, very smart to lead off with. You don't need 20 other movies to go enjoy this one, and it being under 2 hours. That's a great selling point because it feels like. And let's talk about this real quick. It feels like every movie that we've seen in theaters is part of a huge franchise. It is at least 2.5 hours, or it feels 2.5 hours.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse
Yeah.
of Madness. If you had not watched WandaVision, the movie is confusing.
I love how that movie just keeps seeping into this podcast that has nothing to do with it.
Because it's madness. It's multiverse.
It is madness. Let's end this podcast real quick with some Was It news. We got a She-Hulk trailer. Looks very interesting. I've seen both good and bad online. Actually, that's kind of the state of the world. You're going to get good and bad with anything that you put out these days. But Arjuna, initial impressions of the She-Hulk trailer.
I just want to know when it takes place. Maybe I'm a weirdo for focusing in on this, but as soon as I saw Hulk, I locked right into his arm, right? Because as we know, at the end of Endgame, like his arm gets blown off. The last time we saw Hulk was in the Shang-Chi post-credits, where he was no longer Professor Hulk. He was Human Hulk, but he still had the arm in the cast, even though it seemed
Great
like
point.
the skin had healed and whatnot. This one, he is Professor Hulk again, and the arm is completely fine.
So there's two options, it seems like.
There's a few options here, right? The first option is he's a Skrull. This isn't the real. this isn't Professor Hulk at all. The second option is this is between Infinity War and Endgame. So he's become Professor Hulk. He became Professor Hulk in between the snap, and this is exploring that 5-year period that they haven't really explored yet at all, and that's when She-Hulk kind of came about. The third option is his arm is healed, and he can now just go between Bruce Banner and Professor Hulk, which is a weird choice because at least how it was presented in Endgame was Professor Hulk was kind of the end game for him in terms of there was no more Bruce Banner, there is no more Hulk, it is just Professor Hulk.
Yeah, I want to touch on your first. Those are all three very good. The fourth option, of course, is it's a different timeline, different multiverse.
Oh, that's true.
But we won't go there.
Forgot about that one.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the big elephant in the room with Marvel. But I want to touch on your first one real quick. That he's a Skrull. There's a few nuggets I think we can drop around this particular theory. One, Bruce Banner doesn't particularly enjoy being the Hulk, and so it would be very strange for his character to impose that on someone else. No, maybe impose is not the right word, but even offer it to someone else because he had struggled with balancing that persona for so long, and he views it more as a curse most of the time than it is a blessing.
Yeah.
So it being a scroll seems more plausible. Second, secret invasion is a thing. Arjuna, what do you know about secret invasion?
So,
because I don't know anything. I just see
Secret
it
Invasion is a Disney Plus show starring everyone's favorite actor Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. However, Kevin Feige and Samuel L. Jackson dropped some big news at the upfronts that were this week for television when they kind of talked about Secret Invasion a little bit and said that this show takes place between Infinity War and Endgame. There's just one big issue with that, Krishna. The post-credits of Infinity War specifically show Nick Fury being dusted as he hits the beeper to summon Captain Marvel.
So, obviously then, a scroll took his place during those 5 years.
So, if you remember in Far From Home, that post-credit scene is Talos being revealed as Nick Fury. Now, Ben Mendelsohn, who plays Talos, has been confirmed to be in this show as well. Obviously, he being the most well-known Skrull on screen so far. But what it could potentially be is Fury gets dusted, and that's when he decides he's going to take on Nick Fury in those interim 5 years. Potentially.
Also, they've sort of been teasing this time period for Secret Invasion for a while. If you think back, I believe it's toward the end of Endgame when Peter Parker is going back to school and he meets up with his friend, I forget his name, and in the hallway. Ned, thank you. And meets up with Ned, and in the hallway, and if you look down the hallway, a lot of people say you can see, I think it's Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
Mendelsohn's character just standing there, like as a human. And so people have said, "Oh, that's a weird place to put a Skrull character," And as you've already said as well, the Nick Fury thing is really interesting because the last time I think we see the real one, he's on a spaceship, right? He's on a.
That's part of the Far From Home post-credit scene.
Right. Oh, right. That's right. Exactly.
And then even in No Way Home, when Peter is in custody, he's like, talk to Nick Fury. They say, Nick Fury has been off planet for over a year, is what they said. So at least according to human knowledge, right? The year being since he came back from Endgame. So here's the issue. Now here's another issue. Because Fury was officially dusted. If you remember in Endgame, they're kind of going through the missing people, and Fury's name, flashes on there. Fury has been said to have been off-world for a year since he came back from Endgame. How are they going to explain that? Why would Talos be Nick Fury in space?
That is a wonderful point. The only reason I could think of is that Nick Fury and Captain Marvel have a connection. Captain Marvel is the premier space hero. Right. So the only reason I could come up with is they decide to be Nick Fury to manipulate Captain Marvel, right, in space.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then when the real Captain Fury comes back, they decide to switch places. Captain Fury, the real one, decides, I'll stay in space. You go take care of things on Earth and keep everything running smoothly.
Hunky-dory.
Or they're keeping Nick Fury in space kind of against his will, though it didn't seem that way, and they're going to let Secret Invasion guy
Talos
loose. Yeah. Also, one other thing I want to bring up with Secret Invasion. This is one of my favorite theories that we've ever generated from Logic Good. If you think back to Hawkeye, we all thought Kingpin, played by
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Thank you. Super strange character, super strange acting job. And he was even asked about it, and he was like, "What do you mean? This is how I play the character." And we're all like, "This is bullshit. Why are you wearing a Hawaiian shirt in winter?" So our theory is that the Kingpin from the Hawkeye show, very different than what we saw in Daredevil, and he is a Skrull himself. So it seems to be, whether it's true or not, we're getting major Skrull vibes the whole way through. So,
that actually, that's a good transition for one last thing I forgot to put on the outline, and that is the rumor that Daredevil is actually coming back.
That's right.
On Disney Plus. And
yes.
The one question I have for you, Krishna, is this: if this Daredevil on Disney Plus is not R-rated like the Netflix version, will it be good? Can they do a PG-13 Daredevil? With this, it's because it's Charlie Cox, right? We know he's part of the MCU canon. He's gonna be appearing in the Echo show. He's allegedly rumored to appear in She-Hulk. Obviously the Kingpin's back. Yeah, so
a couple things here. I don't think there's any way it can be rated R. So I think we can automatically plug it in at PG or PG-13, right? Can it be good? I think it can. But it's going to be, you're going to have to lean into sort of that gag that we saw with his brief cameo in Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man.
No Way Home.
Right? No Way Home, where he plays like, he catches the missile or the rock, the bomb thing, the rock,
brick.
whatever. The brick. Yeah, I was like, what came through the window? A brick, and you add a little bit of that patented MCU humor to him, and you're gonna have to not lean all the way. You still want him to be a badass, obviously, but you're gonna have to change that character a little bit. I don't want to say retcon the character, but you are gonna have to change him. You're gonna have to throw in a little bit more of that humor. That quick, MCU, the quick Disney. I don't know what the right word is. Style, I guess. It can be good. I'll have to wait and see. I'm really not sure. Do we know when that show's dropping though? By the way,
it's just a rumor, and I would assume with She-Hulk dropping this year, Echo dropping next year, and everything else dropping, this is probably 2025, 2026, far away.
So plenty of time for it to get canceled.
Yeah,
so that's,
plenty of time for the Was It Good crew to join the creative team behind it and mold it into our own thing.
Why would we do Daredevil of all the things?
Because we get the scraps to start.
Yeah, that's true, and then build ourselves up. I like it. And then last thing before we get out of here is Stranger Things season 4. First of all, those kids aged quick. Jesus, they're almost adults.
So everyone's making a joke of the main kid, Finn Wolfhead. He's really tall now, and everyone's like, is he 6'10"? Is he playing in the NBA?
He looks like I don't know if you Chet Holmgren. He's a NBA draft prospect. He's going to get drafted top 3. He looks just like him. Chet is 7'2", and just real thin and real gangly and real awkward. Look up Chet Holmgren. I think that's Finn Wolfhead. That's his future. But Arjuna, you have a note here. Episodes, and I quote. This is Arjuna. Real quote from Arjuna. Episodes are real fucking long. Arjuna, can you elaborate on this quote that you put here in the outline?
Yeah, for sure. So apparently a finale. So first of all, it's kind of weird how they're dropping these episodes. So episodes 1 through 7 drop also on May 27th. Busy day on the content calendar. And then episodes 8 and 9, just 2 episodes, drop July 1st. And the 9th episode in particular is 2+ hours.
They're really going experimental on their release. I kind of like it.
Episodes.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Sorry, real quick. It sounds like episode 9 is then basically 2 or 3 episodes smushed together.
It's like a
and
movie.
They were like, let's just release this as a movie.
Pretty much.
And that's the second to last episode. Is that correct?
That's the last episode. The last episode.
Oh, it is the last. Okay.
And then the episode 8 is an hour 30. Episode 7 is an hour 40.
Holy shit. Wow. Okay. I'm curious. I don't. I said this when Vox Machina came out. I was like, I really hope that more of these streaming networks decide to experiment a little bit. And what Vox Machina did, I think it was 12 episodes, and they basically just released 3 episodes for a month, each week for a month. And I love that because it allowed you to basically build your own viewing experience. Right. You could watch 3 episodes as each week as a movie. So you got a Vox Machina movie each week. Or if you want to, you could spread it out. You could watch an episode Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, right? Kind of create your own schedule, viewing schedule, knowing that there was more to come. Stranger Things, it sounds like I'm very curious to see what this viewing experience is like, because this is unique. I can't think of another show that's been released quite like this. So you're saying, yeah,
7 and then 2.
That very interesting, and yeah, and it sounds like they're going to try and capture everyone's attention on that first week, get everyone to binge this thing in time for them to then binge the last 2 episodes, which sounds like 4 hours of television, which is like another season, let's be honest, on that next weekend. So instead of only dominating the conversation for a week or 2, like, you know, which is kind of like Netflix's
it's not a weekend,
model.
though. It's May 27th, and then it's July 1st. So there's a month in between.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said June 1st.
No, July.
So they are really trying then to dominate the conversation for 2 months instead of just their 2 or 3 week.
I've also heard the rumor. The reason they're kind of breaking it up into 2 is so they can get nominated for Emmys twice, I think, for the same season. So like the delineation or the cutoff is like sometime in June, and so. And this has been done for a few years. Like Breaking Bad did a similar thing with their 5th season. They did a part 1 and part 2, and that was so like it got nominated in 2 different Emmy cycles. It's become a popular thing to do in television. But the 7-2 delineation is what's really weird.
Yeah, that's curious. We'll have to see. We'll see. I like the idea of this experiment because the more experimentation, the more, you know, options we'll ultimately get. So I think that's a good thing. But anyway, I think that's going to do it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for another episode of What's It Good. Once again, we will be at Star Wars Celebration. If you're at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim next weekend, come check us out in the podcast stage at 5 p.m. on Thursday. That's 5 p.m. Pacific time. We will be having an episode. It will, of course, be Star Wars themed. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/wasitgood. We're also on TikTok at wasitgoodpod, Instagram at wasitgoodpod. We're on Twitter at wasitgood, and be sure to check out our website at wasitgood.info for fun blog content, pictures, links, and other
We have a couple blogs on there.
We have 2. Exactly a couple. I was supposed to do a third, so Harry, if you're listening, please don't kill me.
You should do it.
I should do it. That'll do it. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.